It's starting to become a little bit of a running joke down in the comments section that, wow, Craig says this is his favorite fight of the weekend. But really, if you look at it, this is one of those fights that's going to fly under the radar. And normally when people say that, it's like the feature prelim. But this is going to fly under the radar. We have Francis Ziam taking on Luigi Vendramini. And for Luigi Vendramini, this is a guy that came into the UFC and had an unsuccessful debut, as did his opponent, both guys coming in on short notice in their respective fights. Now, for Vendramini, he came in up a weight class. He was very, very young when he did it. I mean, this is a guy coming into this weekend that just turned 25 a few months ago, taking on Eliseo Zaleski dos Santos. And when he did, it actually wasn't bad until it was. Now, he really kind of had to strike to get the takedown, but he had Zaleski's back for a long time, threatened with a couple of different chokes, got caught in a Peruvian necktie at one point, got out of it, and then ultimately got knocked out in impressive fashion. And for Vendramini, he took a long time off between fights, and there's a reason why. And some people had it out there on the internet, oh, it was a little bit of a knee injury. He tore his ACL, so he had it corrected, went to train. Now, it was corrected, it was good, he was out of the water, or out of the woods. He went from Brazil to Factory X to training a little bit, and then he notices some discomfort, gets it checked out, actually tore the ACL again. They went in to fix it, and they said, oh boy, they did a terrible job the first time, had to fix it. It was a lengthy layoff. So what does Luigi Vendramini go out and do? Well, he works for his parents' bakery and mushroom farm. They've been running it for years, and if you didn't know that, now you get a little bit of a backstory on the Italian Stallion. And Matt, I absolutely love Luigi Vendramini and his fights.
I mean, does he have any family gatherings coming up that we should know about? Because you're giving us some insight right now.
He does have a really accredited background, black belt in jiu-jitsu. He's got a Muay Thai background as well. He might not be the most polished striker. That's definitely the version of his game that he definitely has to work on. Obviously, going to Factory X would have helped shore up some of those defensive holes. But if you did go back and watch his last fight, and boy, I say that you should, he took on a guy in Yesin Ayari that when I think of my mind's eye, who has the perfect build for 155? Who has the perfect background for 155? Yesin Ayari. He has all the tools. He just can never really bring them into practice.
Yeah,
Vendramini finished him in impressive fashion and let out like a call to the heavens when he screamed after that win. It scared me the 3 or 4 times that I watched that fight yesterday. Taking on Ziam in this fight, France's own, the guy's 24, his debut on short notice, UFC 242, taking on Don Madge. Didn't win that fight, but again, this is a guy that's a European K1 kickboxing champ. He really has it on lock with the striking. Takedown defense is always a concern with a kickboxer, but his last time out, picked up a win over Jamie Mullarkey. 5 of 11 was Mullarkey of his takedown attempts, but you did see Ziam pop back up. It was a close fight, but now he's coming into this one with full head of steam and a win.
This should be a really interesting fight because we kind of know what version of both guys that I shouldn't say that. We sort of have an idea as to what both versions are. Vendramini is probably going to have to get takedown to win this fight, and Ziam is going to have to keep this fight at distance, and even then it's going to be a tough fight for him because at the end of the day, you bring up a lot of the background that Vendramini has. Yes, he's good on the ground. Yes, he's good on the feet. But at the end of the day, speed kills in MMA, and Ziam is one of the faster guys at this weight class, especially on the feet. And the fact that he's not just a good striker. There's different kinds of good strikers. Ziam's a long-range striker. He's kind of like a sniper when he's in there. He's not a guy like Cub Swanson who's going to rush forward with big looping hooks and try to get wild to knock you out with one of those big shots. He's someone who, kind of similar to a bigger Sean O'Malley maybe, not the best comp, but along those lines where he is going to be reserved. When you look at his numbers and you know his striking background, you're going to be surprised by how low his output really is. He's not a guy who's going to go in there like a Max Holloway and throw 400 punches to overwhelm his opponent. He's someone who he's going to aim and fire, not just, aim and pray. He's someone who is really technical, and that's the thing I do like about Ziam, especially in this fight. If he can keep this fight at distance and really just pump out his jab and a lot of his straight shots, in theory, he should just be able to keep Vendramini at such a distance and piece him apart on the feet. The flip side, Vendramini, I don't want to say he's like Pedro Munoz, but there are some parts of his game that are similar. The difference is that Pedro Munoz, when he hits people, they just fall down. Like, he has that power X factor. But Vendramini, he will strike his way into the clinch to get the takedown. He will play the striking game a little bit. He's not just going to go in there and shoot up solely for takedowns. And if you have the Zaleski dos Santos fight, that's just a great example of a fight that's going great until it's not, because he did exactly what you had said. Struck his way into the clinch, does a great job getting onto the back standing of Zaleski, and Zaleski dos Santos, and at that time, like, Alicio was almost top 15. Like, you gotta remember, he was kind of like Vicente Luque before Vicente Luque. Like, he was knocking out a bunch of these unranked guys, and everybody wanted to see him fight because he was super exciting. Reminds you of Vicente Luque. And the fact that Vendramini, who was so green in his career up until that point, was able to put on really an impressive performance even in a loss, is super impressive. He's gonna have to have a very similar game plan in this fight, though. He can't just expect to shoot him for takedowns at a really long range, and he can't expect to try to strike with Ziam for extended periods of time throughout this fight. I really do think that Ziam's the type of guy who's going to be able to find the holes in your striking the more strikes you throw at him. Whereas the more strikes Vendramini throws, I kind of look at it, I know I brought this up when Petr Yan fought Aljamain Sterling, where Aljamain Sterling throws a lot of volume. Well, the more throws he gives, the more reads he's giving his opponent. With a guy like Ziam, if you're giving him a lot of those reads with your volume, he is going to be able to pick you apart at a certain point. So for me, it comes down to, can Vendramini secure the takedown before Ziam secures the timing of Vendramini? It's a really hard ask because with Vendramini, he probably should be able to, and we talked about some of the success in the grappling. I do worry about the distance that this fight is going to be competed at, though, for him.
Yeah, because, I mean, you do look at Vendramini, and obviously just about everybody that fights Fares Ziam, especially in this weight class, they're going to be at a height disadvantage. Sure. I mean, Vendramini coming in here roughly 5'8". You have Ziam at about 6'1", and obviously, I mean, the picture looks a little silly, and I did kind of, you know, try and match them up as best I can, but it's true. I mean, there is a big difference. As far as reach is concerned, not the biggest discrepancy, but when you do look at this fight again, Vendramini's got a wicked left hook. Out of his 9 wins, all of them by finish, 4 by knockout, 5 by submission. So it is stuff that you like to see. Ziam definitely has finished wins on his record, but again, both young fighters, both height prospects in this division, both 25 and under. When we have a look at the odds here, they have shifted, and they've shifted in the last 24 hours. So Vendramini opened a plus 100, or roughly there about underdog. He's now a plus 112. If you look at it for Ziam, opened up a plus 100. He's a minus 130. So the odds have shifted in favor of the French fighter. If we have a look at Tapology for the overall votes, this is the first time I'm looking at them. 924 total votes, 60% Ziam, 86% by decision. The 40% that have Vendramini, 42% by decision, 14% by submission, 38% by knockout. Now, when I look at this fight, again, I do like Fares Ziam because obviously realizes what he's good at. You're going to work at your defensive grappling. You're going to work at your takedown defense. And then you're just going to try and keep the fight standing. For Luigi Vendramini, he can do it standing. This definitely isn't the fight to do it. But strike to clinch, clinch to take it down, and then work from there. And I like that out of Vendramini. Yes, he might not have as many pro fights, but again, he was hampered by those knee injuries. Didn't really see that a problem in his last fight either. So corrective surgery that he got in Brazil really worked itself out. And I do like the Italian sensation in this fight. I mean, listen, you go back and watch his highlights coming into the UFC, you can tell how impressive this guy is. Not to steal any thunder away from Ziam, but I do like Vendramini here.
So for Fares Ziam, he's not like, and forgive me, this is incredibly unprofessional. Who's the fighter at 125? He's like 3-3. He's the glory kickboxer. He fought Sumaru.
Zaruk Adeshev.
Zaruk Adeshev, thank you. Zaruk Adeshev, they're going to talk about his boxing background, his kickboxing background, how great of a striker he is. Then you watch him in the cage and you're like, really? Fares Ziam's not that. They are going to talk about his striking background. He's actually going to look like a really good striker in the cage, though. This is going to be a tough fight, and I do worry, like I spoke about, he needs range to get off a lot of his strikes. I just don't think Vendramini is going to give him the chance to get, or to create that distance and really be able to pop him with those shots. The one thing I will say, though, if Vendramini tires in this fight, and if he can't get the finish at some, not even the finish, but if he tires to the point where it's just like, okay, I'm in pure defensive mode in this third round, I would be surprised if Ziam could knock him out in the third. But aside from Vendramini getting extremely exhausted in this fight, no, I agree with you. I've got the underdog.
Both of us going with the Brazilian Luigi Vendramini, whose nickname's the Italian Stallion. You have the Italian Dream in the main event, Matt. I absolutely love this card. UFC 263 is stacked. So keep it locked in with Fight Night Picks, as we always say. Let's get into it.